Butterflies, high heels. There's some interesting symbolism in this show.
Tina Fey has the reputation of comedic legacy, but who saw it coming with Colman Domingo?
Are you a bad person if you leave an unhappy marriage, or is happiness more important?
What got me so hot under the collar about everything Steve Carell seems to do nowadays?
Red and Red Real Reviews joins a couple's vacation for the limited series The Four Seasons on Netflix.
Ahoy, ladies! I didn't see you there. Would you guys like to set sail on this ocean of flavor?
Randall, look at eye contact, please. You're gonna be cool, right?
Oh, baby, I'm as cool as the other side of the pillow.
Been staring at this board for days.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Act. Bears eat beets.
My brain is on fire. I'm dying.
I am the one who knocks.
Bears. Beets. Battlestar Galactica.
When they say 2% milk, I don't know what the other 98% is.
It's hard to believe we're even the same species.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Oh my god. The microchip has been compromised.
Dracarys.
And welcome back to another episode of Red and Red Real Reviews. So, this show, it's advertised as a limited series or a mini series, depending on what you call it. And this has a return actor favorite of ours. So obviously Steve Carell, who we watched in the morning show, which took a nosedive in recent seasons. So regardless, still happy to see Steve Carell in something. Then, we have people see that this is a series with Tina Fey, Will Forte, Colman Domingo. It's got some big names attached to it. So we know that the premise coming into it is that it's a comedy about friends who go on vacation together through each season. So with that cast, and then you have that premise about vacation, that's what reels you in. That's what reeled me into it. So we have to let everyone know off the top, should they watch it?
I found that before even getting the nitty gritty of all the actors, I found that for this, it's an easy watch, it's a quick watch, and despite it being a condensed timeline of 8 episodes, every 2 episodes, like you said, is like it's a new arc. So it's a lot of story into a very condensed timeline, which which helps to keep you engaged throughout the show.
Yeah, and it's sort of a dramedy. It's got those quick 30-minute episodes. So you have mostly comedy, but there's also some drama thrown in. There's some decent acting thrown in by everyone on the cast, I think. And a lot of people, I don't think, know that this is an adaptation of a movie from 1981. So I didn't know that, but apparently people who are a little bit older than us maybe might remember that and have watched it as a beloved movie, but I had no idea. Does it surprise me that Tina Fey knew about it and she wanted to create the adaptation as a writer and creator? No, didn't surprise me at all. This kind of seems like the kind of thing that she would want to get her hands into. So yeah, I mean, I never saw the movie, so I don't have anything to compare it to, but it's interesting how they took a 2-hour movie and kind of stretched it out and elaborated into it to create like a 4-hour TV show.
Yeah, and the name sounded familiar to me, so I knew it was probably based off something, but I never saw any prior inspiration of it, so I didn't know whether it was, they're also playing like classical music as the interlude, so it was based off a song, it's based off a book, it's based off a movie, whatever. So I knew it was based off something, but it wasn't anything that was pre-existing in my brain.
So we all know who Colman Domingo is. Obviously, he's kind of an acclaimed actor, but you had a note here that you didn't really know what Will Forte had been in before.
Well, not that I didn't know what he had been in, because I've seen him in a lot of different things, but I go through his filmography, I'm like, I didn't see that, or I recognize that, but very vague memory. So it's like, I know this guy, I like this guy, I've seen him all over the place, but like there's like no film or TV work that really was like, oh yeah, that one I really jived with. So he's like he's kind of like one of those actors that I know I like, but there's no work that really has a fond place, in my heart or whatever.
Well, I think of him, he was on the era of SNL when it was still good. So that's what I think of him from the most. There are so many skits and scenes that he was in that were absolutely hilarious that I still think about today. But I really think his heyday was maybe 10 years ago or so. That's when he had a show called Last Man on Earth that was a comedy. And I did watch most of that show, although I don't think I saw it through to the end. It got a little bit kind of convoluted, and it started off being a comedy and then it kind of went dark, and so I stopped watching it. But I do love him as a comedic actor, and I do think he has the chops too to do serious acting and to do drama.
The most recognizable role I pinged out from his work was MacGruber.
Yeah. He's been in a lot of comedies as like a side character. You know how Lorne Michaels from SNL, and I think Tina Fey too. Tina Fey has written a bunch of comedy movies. She wrote Mean Girls, but I mean even after that, she had movies with Amy Poehler and things like that. So all the SNL writers and people are all doing each other's movies. So he's been in a few of those besides MacGruber.
Yeah.
And then of course, Steve Carell, like it's so funny that where he started out with being Michael Scott in The Office, that he's here in this arena where he can again nail comedy, but also really seriously nail drama.
Michael Scott, but also the 40-Year-Old Virgin, which
Yeah.
may or may not have like come out right before The Office, the little fuzzy on the timeline there. But those such silly slapstick roles, and to see him do this, and to see him do the morning show, and like every role he continues to do proves him just that much more of an amazing an actor.
Yeah, he just nails it every single time. We'll talk a little bit about him later, a little bit more. So because we have so many famous comedic actors, I mean, I guess Colman Domingo is not really famous for being a comedic actor, but the other big three, Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, we have all these comedic actors. What were the funniest moments or highlights from the show for you?
I I went into this thinking to myself, like, I thought of moments in the show that were funny, not necessarily like quotable things. And then as I'm going
Mm.
through my notes, I'm like, actually, I did write down a lot of quotes. So maybe, maybe like I was so intent on following like the storylines and not so much what was a catchy line. I didn't think I wrote down as many as I did, but I did write down quite a few.
What was like the best one in your opinion? What was the absolute funniest moment? Like, did you have any laugh out louds?
The one that really got me was in when they're on the summer island, and this is kind of when Nick first starts dating Ginny, when Ginny's
Mm.
first introduced to the group. And Kate kind of gives him a challenge on that, and they're talking about like, what's weird about this? This is weird. That's not weird. And she's like, this isn't weird. It's weird that your girlfriend wasn't alive when Reagan got shot. And he like is taken aback and goes, "What the fuck kind of metric is that?"
Yeah. That's
Like
actually
pick some
that's the clip they
arbitrary point
used
in history.
for morning TV. That's the clip that they use, which I thought was funny because that was it's sort of like, movie trailers, they show all the best parts and you're like, oh, come on, you're showing all the best parts. But yeah, that was one of the best parts.
Yeah, and another one that I liked was when Danny, the first kind of strife between Danny and Claude is him wanting to just work and ignore his kind of cardiac situation. Claude's like, no, you got the surgery, you got the stent put in, that sort of thing. And Danny and Kate are having this argument about it. And I guess Kate being Kate, she must like kind of get her point across without speaking. And Diego's like, your face is so loud sometimes, bitch. Let me eat my sandwich.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was funny. And didn't they talk about Kate and Danny actually having dated in college or something?
Yeah, that's how they met, so which makes sense of
Right.
why they're always kind of like going to each other's corner when Kate's dealing with Jack stuff and Danny's dealing with Claude stuff. Like they're always leaning on each other. Because well, it was a it was a interpretation is in the eye of the beholder kind of thing with their dating thing because Claude tells the story like, oh, they dated in college and Danny's like, did we really date? And Kate's like, well,
Yeah.
we kissed 3 times. And Danny goes like, well, 2 of them were in a play. And she's like, yes, right, but the third one was by accident.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's one of those, I think one of those relationships where you kind of realize they don't play for they play for a different team, and so
Yeah,
you just get a good friendship out of that.
yeah. There
Yeah.
were there are other ones like most of what I wrote are kind of like of a verbose nature, I guess. Like when Nick's kind of after that argument with Kate and they go out the paddleboarding thing because Kate's like, oh no, no, I'm
Mm.
gonna double down. You're not telling me I'm miserable on this vacation. So Nick feels like he has to prove himself. He swims to the rocks, climbs up, winds up stepping on a bunch of sea urchins, and his foot's bleeding all over the place. And they go back, and Kate's like apologizing, like Nick, no, 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 I did this to myself. But next time, don't guilt me into climbing a bunch of rocks. Just tell me to go fuck myself.
Yeah. Yeah, she didn't really she didn't really want to say that, like, gloat about the fact that she was right,
Mhm.
but yeah, it did end up with him hurting himself. And they were also like minimizing his injury too. They were like, "You got cut by a seashell." He was like, "It was an urchin."
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I for me there were so many moments that were Kate and Jack related. Like I loved their dynamic. They were just, Jack is sort of like almost effeminate. Like he's kind of the woman in the relationship, sort of laughably.
Mhm.
And so there's all these moments where, Kate is kind of like embarrassed of him and his behavior. And one of the moments is when he comes out with his life is good bucket hat. And she's like so mortified. And she's like, if you don't take that off, I'm going to cut my hair short. And I was laughing because I always like if I want to piss my husband off or like threaten him, like I will say that too. I'm like, okay, guess I'm gonna be G.I. Jane and hack all my hair off. And he's like, no, don't. So it's like a condition to get your husband to behave by threatening to cut your long flowing locks off.
That's a little bit of an extreme jump from wearing a silly hat.
Yeah, yeah. But I just thought it was funny because Will Forte, he's got the hat on, and then when Ginny, it almost made me wonder, does Ginny actually genuinely like it or was she just being nice? She's like, oh yeah, bucket hats are in. And she's like, she complimented him on his hat and he's like, oh, see. And he's, acting like that to Kate when she was so embarrassed of it. But yeah, it almost made me wonder if Ginny was genuine about it. But regardless, at least it made him feel good about it.
I think she was being genuine. It's just a matter of, I think it was meant to like accentuate the kind of generational differences between what they all relate to.
Yeah, and speaking of generational differences, I think it was when they were paddle boarding and I don't know if they took a picture or something or they were talking about pictures or and and Ginny is like, "Oh, I'll share it to your Tik or I'll send it to you on TikTok or I'll show you on TikTok or something like that." And so like he says, actually I don't have TikTok, but could you just share it to my Facebook? and and so that really shows the gap between them and Ginny is huge because they have nothing to do with any of that. And then, as we figure out later, Ginny's friends have absolutely no idea who Kenny Loggins is. So that's a real generational divide in between those two groups of friends.
That one, that one I was almost mad at the scene because I forget what Nick said to try and like describe who Kenny Loggins was. And I was in my head, I'm thinking, why would you just start singing Danger Zone?
Yeah, I feel like most people like it is sort of a one-hit wonder, I think, from Kenny Loggins, but yeah, I feel like most people would even vaguely remember that song, if anything. So yeah,
Yeah.
just to be like, I don't even remember how the words go. I just remember Danger Zone. That's
To
the
the danger zone.
yeah, like that's all you'd have to sing to be like, you don't know that song.
Yeah.
Like it's not
Is it from
difficult.
Top? They used it in Top Gun, didn't they? Was it used in Top Gun?
Yeah, I think so. It was the volleyball scene, isn't it? Isn't it the volleyball song when they have the
Oh,
volleyball match or whatever?
could be. Yeah.
I think that's what it's famous for. I don't even really know that. I've seen Top Gun like once or twice in my life. I
Yeah.
don't even
Work
know
that
that
out. But at
much.
least, but at least you're not telling me you never saw. At least we're not having a gas moment right now.
No, no. And then speaking of other famous songs, we won't get into the moment, but Terry, who is Anne's new boy toy, him playing Candle in the Wind and doing his best Elton impression was like that was the laugh out loud moment for me. The way that he was doing the actual Elton, like I'm trying to think of the line that he was like a
I always,
candle in the wind. Like he just does the little Elton finesse.
whenever I hear that song, what I'm singing in my head is Little Sebastian from Parks and Rec.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think about. And
The
then
other thing,
another, yeah, go ahead.
because like I noticed also when I was writing down all my quotable moments, is most of them were Danny and Colman Domingo, like you said, is not necessarily the comedic actor, but and he's still kind of a new thing, but I think it's growing his depth of character similar to Steve Carell, although without the history that the audience has in their minds, being kind of a newer face to the screen. It's kind of like growing his depth of an actor because we see Rustin, we see Sing Sing, and then he can do something like this, which is a little more silly.
Yeah, to see him not in these super dramatic serious roles is interesting. And I mean I half watched that movie that he was nominated for. I can't even remember. Sing Sing? Yeah, Sing Sing.
Well, both. He was nominated for both Rustin and Sing Sing.
What was the first one?
Rustin.
Rusted. I don't think I ever saw that.
Rustin. That was a person's name.
Oh, Rustin. No, I definitely did not see that. Yeah. So, I mean, I haven't even seen a lot. Like, I just know him by name, knowing that he's an acclaimed actor. I haven't seen a lot of his work. But the one thing I did see him in was a very like profound role. So that was interesting. And I did like Claude too. The guy who played Claude looked familiar, but I wouldn't know him by name. But I thought he was pretty funny too.
I thought Claude was hilarious, especially like when he comes back after Ultimate Frisbee, and Danny's thinking like he's not gonna come back. He's all pissed off, and he's come back. He's all happy, like, no, no, I'm good, I'm good.
When he's like, I'm gonna sing this song for you guys, and he starts, I think Nick actually starts laughing out loud, and
Oh,
he's like, that's not our song,
the
but they're
wedding
like,
song.
continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he keeps singing, but he was so into it. That was really funny too. That was one of the moments I wrote down.
And he just like death stares Danny because Danny told him he couldn't sing that song because it was Nick and Ann's song, and Danny's sitting there like,
Yeah, that was a cute moment between them. There were two other quotes that I was dying at. So it was within the first, I think, 5 or 10 minutes of the first episode where Nick is walking with Danny and Jack, and he's like, he just starts unloading to them about how unhappy he is in his marriage. And of course, it's a very serious situation, but just the way he's so earnest when he says this, I was dying. When he says, all she wants to do is play this farm game on her iPad. And then they're like, oh, wow. And he's like, I look over her shoulder some nights. She's really high on the leaderboard, talking about how she's like
Like Farmville.
Probably, yeah, like she's probably like number 5 in the world or something. Like, I just thought that was so funny to acknowledge that.
Yeah. No, and I had an early on LOL moment too, because when they're debating whether they're all soulmates or marriage is just something you have to work and be dedicated at. And Danny's kind of playing both sides, but then he closes it like, but ultimately we're all just animals looking to rub our crotches on something.
Yeah, I was laughing at that too. And then the last thing I'll say is, obviously infinite Jack and Kate exchanges, but the best one was when Kate is talking about how Jack actually makes things more expensive, like he doesn't know how to negotiate. And so they're talking about how he bought Geek Squad for a free power cord and it cost him $12. So you're thinking like, oh, well, maybe, he says something about like, oh, well, it was a good thing because that cord ended up dying or something. And then she's like, yeah, and then we had to pay for it. So like he was costing them money in the hole for this stupid power cord that he got a $12 Geek Squad subscription or membership for, which I thought was absolutely hilarious.
And he says like, "Oh, but we benefited when we got the next one for when it broke it. We got the next one for free. Pause minus shipping and handling fees."
Right. That was so hilarious. All right. So the reason I wanted to focus on the comedy first is there was that absolutely heartbreaking letdown where it all just took a very sharp turn. And I've never seen the movie. I don't know anything about how it's done in the movie, but I really never suspected Nick to die. I thought when Kate had her phone in the bag of rice after it got damaged, and then she turned it on and received like a million phone calls or missed calls, I thought that Ginny would be calling Kate saying that she couldn't find Nick because they had a fight and like, I can't find him. I don't know where he is. Because they showed that prior scene of him at the grocery store where he's buying all this stuff for her friends. So when I think it was Kate that walked in and was like, Nick is dead. I'm like, what? Like, I was in shock. I just did not expect that. So that kind of rocked me. And that was in the 7th episode, I believe. So, not only was I shocked, but it seemed to make every one of Nick's friends really question their lives and reflect on their lives. And there were all these kind of tender moments in the last episode. So what were some of those moments that made an impact on you?
For me, I don't know whether the Nick's death was set up, whether it was a situation where his death needed to be set up by something, or it just kind of like added to the depth of the moment when Ginny's call was read aloud. But for me, it wasn't just going into the last episode. It was those last 2 episodes, the 2 winter episodes, because it started off Nick's on vacation with Ginny, and he's not connecting with her friends. They don't get the Kenny Loggins story. So he goes upstairs and he's playing the farm games on his iPad, which I thought was an interesting full circle moment because that was the thing he always complained about Anne was doing and didn't want to go out on adventures and whatnot. And he's FaceTiming the gang and they're laughing and having a grand old time. And to me, it almost kind of felt like this was going to have a full circle happy ending. He was going to go back to Anne. He was going to realize, like, okay, this was fun. I really was happy, but I'm ultimately past this point in my life. Like, I thought this was going to set up something happy. So when they kind of have this nice moment and then it ends in Nick's death, it kind of like added to the depth of that where I'm like, all right, I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, I did not see that coming, especially because literally in the grocery store scene, I'm pretty sure he's like kind of like whistling to himself, like he's in like a great mood because he's like, I'm gonna make it right with her. Like I'm gonna make it right by buying her friends their vegan food or whatever the hell it is, and gluten-free food. And he's like in a great mood because he realized how he's going to fix the situation and fix the fight that they had. And he's kind of got like a renewed energy about him. And then it's just ripped away, literally.
Yeah, and it was a testament to Nick, because I feel like there's probably a lot of people out there that are going to watch this show and not like Nick, because it's like, oh, he threw away a 25-year marriage. He's just another typical older guy chasing a younger woman, that sort of thing. And I think that kind of like adds to, that Nick's still a good guy and he's still a good friend, because he knows that even though it's nothing that he can control, he still feels bad about it and wants to make good for how he made Ginny feel. And on the flip side of that, when they're going through the funeral arrangements and they're making fun of Ginny because all her photos of her and Nick are lewd and risque and that sort of thing, Anne has this moment where she comes across them after she told Ginny, no, you're not going to talk. We're not going to put your photos in, that sort of thing. She finds the photos and she realized Nick's bright. He's smiling. Like he really was genuinely happy. So there's also kind of this adjustment in the audience's mind of anyone who didn't like Nick. There's this kind of like adjustment. There's kind of this like adjustment period for people to realize that he's not a bad guy after all. Like this was just something you go through as a person's kind of gets to that midlife point.
Right. Kind of challenging the idea that why are you a bad person if you're unhappy in your marriage and you're doing something about it? Like, why does that make you a bad person? Like, isn't life too short? Don't you want to be happy? And I think Anne sort of realizes that, because she kind of, when she says that, no, I don't want Ginny to speak at the funeral. And then she ends up speaking at the funeral and she kind of botches it. She does like a really poor job about talking about him. And so I think that kind of makes her question, like, did I really know him as well as I thought I did for being married for 25 years? And that's when she kind of sees the laptop and she's like, you know what? Like, I need to look at those pictures. And that's when she realizes that, and she even says it to Ginny, like, it wasn't just a blip in your life. Like this 8 months that you spent with Nick, like he genuinely looked happy in the pictures. I've never seen that freaking bastard look that happy with me, like, and that's why Ginny is kind of saying that they were in a fight when he died. She feels like awful about it. And Anne tries to comfort her. There's this woman that she's kind of had complicated feelings about because it took her husband away from her. And she's sitting here comforting this woman after her ex-husband's death. So yeah, that was a really interesting moment when they had that heart to heart.
Yeah, and it extended to well, not to say extended to, but it was also kind of like not off camera, but obviously because Lila didn't get a chance to say goodbye to him or anything, or didn't get a chance to talk to him. Like at least the gang got to FaceTime him. They were having a good time. But like Lila from the previous 2 episodes was doing that whole play thing, ripping him a new one. And and when Kate offers to tell Lila for her, Anna's like, no, I can't do it now. Let me wait till the morning before I have to destroy my baby girl's heart. So it's kind of like, even though Lila was really mad at Nick, it's like Anne still knew that this was going to destroy her.
And at least too, like they had that moment where they went for a walk, or Nick was like, they were going out to dinner. He had plans to go out to dinner, and Lila's like, where's Ginny? And he says, I'd rather us have some time together. And then they're going for a walk after dinner, and she just kind of point blank asks him, why would you do this? And did you think about me? Did you think about anyone else? And he's basically says, I only thought of you. I thought that if I waited to, break from your mother when you got to college, it would be easier, on you, on everybody. And so they kind of have a frank conversation where they can lay the cards out on the table. And at least she had that with him before he passed away so unexpectedly.
That moment was actually one of my funny lines because after they kind of reconciled, Lila says, "Can we at least just agree that Ginny's a younger version of mom, a version of mom in a younger body or something like that?" And
Yeah.
I was
And
thinking of it,
that's
I'm like, I guess they do kind of look similar.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the looks, but like you sort of start to realize even when Lila starts warming up to Ginny a little bit, they have like a little bit in common. They're able to kind of joke around together.
Mhm.
You sort of see the same characteristics sort of that Anne had. Ginny had some of those as well, like personality characteristics.
Yeah, when they're playing Ultimate Frisbee and Ginny's like, "I'm trying to avoid you." And Lila says, "Oh, well, that's interesting because all I've been trying to do is hit you the whole time. I guess that means I'm not really that good at this game."
Yeah, so I mean they realized they kind of had, I don't want to say more in common than they thought, but yeah, so it ended up working out in the end. The whole butterfly thing I thought was like, because I'm a believer in that kind of stuff, that people who pass away give us signs that they're still there. And Claude is really excited. He tells Danny about his dream that he had where Nick emerges as a butterfly. And Danny's like, that's ridiculous. He kind of like brushes him off. And then, he's sort of, I think there's this moment where Danny realizes that he was wrong to brush Claude off about that because he goes into the cabinet to find something. I think this is at Anne's house, correct?
Yeah, the lakeside chateau or whatever it was.
Yeah, and so he goes in the cabinet to find something, and there's on the inside of the cabinet there's like a hand-drawn picture hung up, and it says like to daddy or something like that, and you know that it's from Lila, that Lila gave to Nick at some point, and it's a picture of a butterfly. So Danny's kind of like, whoa, shit,
Yeah,
like maybe he really is a butterfly.
I thought that was not just a tender moment, but also profound as well because it was kind of, I don't necessarily know where like he thought Claude was omniscient, but it was kind of like this this kind of like moment of like where Nick really was, yeah, that sort of thing.
Well, yeah, I think that was Claude's way of, like, because that Nick was his friend too. I mean, he had known him for
Yeah.
many years. So I think what they come to realize is that, they're kind of latching onto whatever makes sense to them at that moment. And for Claude, that was the spiritual sense of, okay, I think he's a butterfly, and I like to think about him in that way. And I think they sort of realize it when they have that scare with Kate and Jack almost falling into the lake,
Hmm.
where they all kind of are on shore and they realize it. And I think they hug each other, and Claude's kind of like, well, how are we going to get through this or something, like I don't know that things are going to be okay. And Danny actually swaps the roles where he's like, no, we're going to be fine. And he sort of, and that was Claude before that was kind of telling him like, no, things are okay. Nick is a butterfly. And
Yeah.
Danny didn't want to believe it. And then there's that role reversal where he's the comfort to Claude.
Yeah, Claude is always a glass is half full person. And it was almost like this comforting of like Kate and Jack just almost died, or Kate almost died, and then they all get together, and Danny's like, it's okay, and Claude's the one that like kind of brings the mood down. It's like it's not okay, Nick's gone, and
Right.
which to me was kind of profound in the sense of uh here's Claude not being this happy-go-lucky positive person anymore.
So then you had to have Danny swap the roles to lift him up again. which was a nice dynamic. And then especially the moment with Kate and Jack, there was a sort of painful scene earlier where I don't know which episode it was in, but they're talking about, they have this discussion about we need to go to therapy. So they do. And Kate is sort of going to Jack saying, listen, maybe marriage is just supposed to be this way. And which is sort of a sad outlook to have on marriage, but they're sort of finding their place in their, like, they're in a really difficult spot in their marriage and they're trying to sort things out. And then later, you know, she says, like, you're my soulmate, and they do kind of sort it out. Like, I want to put work in and make this work. Like, it's gonna suck at some points, but we're gonna make this work. And so that's what they were doing on the lake, is she was really trusting in him because, you know, as she pointed out with the funeral, he could not negotiate to save his life. So like maybe he couldn't do that, but he did save them with his little, and I don't know if this is just a made up thing that like, if you roll, you're not gonna, like, you're dispersing your weight in a way where you're not gonna crack ice or something. But yeah, he saved them after she had been doubting their marriage, sort of.
You are supposed to disperse your weight. I've never heard of the roll thing, but you are supposed to disperse you're supposed to kind of spread eagle across the ice, but you're just kind of supposed to like slide. The roll thing is new, but you're supposed to spread your weight out and kind of like pull yourself across the ice. But that is a thing. That is definitely a thing.
Yeah, and that makes sense. But it's funny because, you know, she was kind of, she kind of had the view that she was doing everything in the marriage. You know, I'm the one negotiating, I'm the one doing all of this stuff because you can't help me do that. And so this was a moment where he took over, he took the upper hand and helped them out of the situation. So I think that was like a game changer in their marriage after having been through that.
But it thought that also dialed back to the trust thing with the whole earn argument, because you know, she's like, okay, I'll just go and take care of this myself. And what happens? They go to Nick's service and he comes out at a stiletto heel. So it's like, okay, you took care of it, but now we have this ridiculous looking urn, and he's portrayed like a hooker's shoe.
Right. And there were so many, I was laughing at the sons who owned the funeral, their father owned the funeral home. Jack kept referring to the guy who we talked to. I forget. I don't know if he was like, oh yeah, Vince told me that was very important to deal, you know. Kate thought that this guy was talking him up and being a salesperson and trying to sell the top dollar things to Jack, and so she just counted him out and thought that he was doing what he always does, but he actually ended up being right in the end. And unfortunately, they realize it when Nick's ashes are in a high heel. So
yeah, your boy Marty off on his vacation. Yeah, because it goes back to your point about him kind of being a little bit of an effeminate man, that he doesn't like take charge. So Kate almost doesn't respect him as far as like, well, you're being taken advantage of. You're not actually coming forward with the best intention.
Right. Like, you're not stepping up enough. I need you to step up. And when he does, she kind of realizes it after the fact.
Yeah.
I know you have a very, very hot take about the last couple episodes, though. So let's get to that.
Yeah. And just the fact of, here we have, you mentioned it before with the morning show, where Mitch was a very antagonistic type of character. And he was just getting to the point of the audience starting to, you know, accept him again and having some kind of redemption arc, and then boom, the writers kill him off. So it's kind of the same thing here. We see Nick, he's up in his room, and it's a similar thing. He's having this redemption arc where he's really like, okay, like, I'm happy with Ginny, but I miss my friends. I don't really relate to the younger crowd, that sort of thing. And even doing something nice, it still kind of felt like this was gonna come back around. He was gonna go back with his friends. And what happened? Boom, he's dead. And I'm like, why? Like, this is like the meme, the internet meme thing with Sean Bean, where his character always dies. Like, why is Steve Carell's character becoming a thing where his character always needs to die? Like, like, does he just have too high a price on his contract where shows can't afford to sign him on for more than a season or something like that? He's such a treasure in acting right now that it's kind of irritating that he has these big profound roles and very very appealing to the audience, and the show's got to kill him off every single time.
I wonder if it's just a coincidence that like every script he reads, he's like, this is excellent. And coincidentally, his character happens to die. But honestly, I will die on this hill. But the morning show went to hell when they killed off Mitch. That's when the show started sucking ass. I'm sorry, but it was bad.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that. I thought Mitch was one of the best parts of that. He had the dynamic with Jennifer Aniston's character. He had like ought to get off again things with the studio execs. I don't necessarily think he had a direct relationship with Bradley, but like there was kind of like an off-screen rivalry they had because she replaced him. So like a lot of things in that show went through Mitch, even if he wasn't necessarily in the scene. So I would completely agree with that. Once he was gone, that's when the show started to fade off and trail down to BS.
And it's like, if you had Steve Carell in your show, why would you purposely write him off when you could keep him in? And I was stunned when they did that. And I was so disappointed because they made him into this bad guy. They really modeled him after Matt Lauer, like the whole Matt Lauer controversy. And they made his character into that. And then they just like did him wrong over and over again. And then they killed him off. And you're like, what?
Doing Steve Carell dirty.
Doing him mad dirty. And and then it's just sad because I mean there was no indication of it, like in shows or movies where I can think of like Dawson's Creek, where the father has an ice cream cone and he's driving in the car and he drops the ice cream falls off of his cone. And so then I think he was going to pick up milk at the store or pick up baby formula or something. And then like you see that he loses control and he dies. Like the last shot we saw of Nick was at the grocery store. So they completely blindside you with it, with the fact that like, oh, he's just picking out gluten-free crackers. Then he's dead. Like,
yeah, at the grocery store doing something nice. So like the last image you have of Nick is extremely positive.
Right. And there's no indication that he was, driving and then he sees a deer or I don't even know if they said like what the situation was with his car accident or how he died. Really, they don't really explain it at all. It's just like, oh, suddenly he's dead, so that's it.
Yeah, he was in a car accident and now he's dead, and that was the end of it. It's like, oh, that we just accept Nick is gone now. Okay, this sucks.
Yeah, I would very much echo that sentiment. This sucks. And so I mean, this series to me feels like a little bit of deja vu because the last series that we did, Happy Face, that was also a limited series. But in that show, we were left with a little bit of a cliffhanger, making it seem like they were setting it up to be a continuing show. And we're like, wait, I thought this was a limited series. But to be fair, we have heard that is a technique that is used with shows gunning for awards. It's easier to nail a best limited series nominee than it is to nail a best comedy series, best drama series, like if we're talking about the Golden Globe. So that is something they have used, and we saw it used with Shogun, which I'm pretty sure won for best limited series when there is going to be a season 2.
Yeah.
And they always planned to do a season 2, so they pulled a fast one on us just to get that nomination and to get that win. But yeah, let's talk about the cliffhanger we had here. And that's why I had deja vu, because it did end with a bit of a cliffhanger when I was like, wait, I thought this is supposed to be coming to an end and tying everything up. And I actually did call it in my notes when Anne and Ginny are outside and they have their conversation. And then Ginny says, I need to talk to you about something. I was like, I know she's pregnant. I know it.
That must be a bit of woman's intuition, because I just thought they were going to have this kind of healing of the tensions between each other. It's like you stole my husband and you're off having all these grand adventures with him. So I figured they were just gonna have a they were just gonna have a healing moment and realize that okay, you're not just a young trampy whore and you're not just a bitter old hag. We're actually good people.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw it more as like, okay, if she says I need to talk to you, there's some sort of, it's not really, it's more than just an apology or something. It's an actual problem. And I was thinking, what problem could there be if somebody is dead and you're the one who's living on? Obviously, conceiving a baby and the father is dead. That's the big thing that I thought could be the main thing that she needed to talk to her about. And then it was solidified when they all went to take a shot of scotch and Ginny's like, nope, not doing it. Or she just kind of, I don't know if she kind of nods like, no, I'm not having that.
Well, Anne almost to that point, maybe Anne was thinking the same thing you did, because Anne kind of like does it, calls her out for it right away.
I think, don't they kind of make eyes at each other? Like Anne's kind of like, yeah, like I know why you can't.
Mm. And the other thing is, I would almost feel like the heavy the heavy emotion of them talking outside before they kind of have that last toast is probably set up by the whole like you're just a blip argument in Nick's life, because obviously you're more than a blip if you're carrying his baby post mortem.
Right. And especially if it's only been 8 months, you haven't even been with this guy for a year. And like you're more than a blip if you're carrying on his bloodline.
Actually, to that point, if it was about 7, 8 months of their relationship, and let's say they were going crazy on each other most of the time, it's almost a story gap. Why isn't Ginny showing in the last 2 episodes?
I mean, she could be very early on though. It could have just happened a month or two ago. Like she could be like 8 weeks along. She could be 12. Like most people don't really start showing until maybe like 12, 14, 16 weeks. So you could be a few months into it before people start seeing that.
But to that point, when we see them really going at each other, it was during the summer episodes. We don't really see them hooking up during the fall episodes. So you would think if there was a period of time where they were getting careless with protection or whatnot, it would have been when they're on the tropical island.
Oh, true. I didn't really think about it that way, but yeah, it could be an indication that like this baby was conceived in the summer season or because he died in winter, right?
He died on New Year's Eve.
Right. Exactly. So I don't know. We'll see if it continues. I don't know what's going to happen, but I personally I don't know if I feel like there's tons of meat here for a second season. Like I obviously they could lean on the character development, the couples relationships, and it could make it like okay, well, now that Nick is gone, now Ginny has like a close relationship with his close friend group. Maybe, now that she's expecting his baby, maybe now like she's part of the friend group. But like outside of that, I don't really see how they could elaborate on this story that much.
No, to me that would almost be like trying to make this series into something it's not. Because like you said, there's not a lot of meat on the bone now. And it would just and it would take a completely different identity of a show than what we just saw, which was enjoyable and nicely paced and engaging throughout. It would take a completely different identity to go in that direction. And it kind of, to me, in my mind, that wouldn't really work. It would kind of be like, it would almost kind of be like a sillier version of like True Detective, where the seasons are independent of each other, and the following season is not as good as the previous season, the original season.
Or because it's going off book, and I don't mean that literally, but because it was an adaptation of a movie, they're going past the creation of the movie, like they did with Game of Thrones. The last books were not written, so they had to write new material that didn't match the direction things were going in. So, I mean, I've seen very few shows do this successfully. The only example I can think of is the show Bad Sisters on Apple TV, where they based it off of a series in another country. I don't know if it was from Ireland or where it was from, but they made it American with Irish actors.
Yeah, to your point,
air on Apple TV. But yeah, they only had, that show only had one series or something. So they did come out with a second season last year, and I think it might be renewed for a third season, but they're just going off book now. They're writing new material because there was nothing created past that first season in the other country series. So yeah, it gets a little tricky sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't go well when you're going to do that. So we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, to your point, the track record of success is not there, so don't even try.
Don't even try. But we hope you try with us. So if you enjoy listening to our show, we would appreciate it if you gave us a 5-star review. Let us know what you think of each episode. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at redrealreviews. That's the letter N and real with 2 E's @gmail.com. Also, make sure to follow along with us on Instagram and TikTok. He is Nutmeg2 Palmetto. I am Binge the Ginge with dots between the words on Instagram, not for TikTok. As always, you can find video episodes on YouTube and Rumble and stream us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Next up, we have another half-hour comedy. This one is called The Studio, which is created and written by Seth Rogen and starring Seth Rogen. And we have a bunch of celebrity cameos and real directors and real actors and things like that. So that's pretty cool. That's on Apple TV. So stream that one next and then tune in with us for that update. Until the next Real Review, Red and Red signing out.
In less than an hour, aircraft from here will join others from around the world.
Don't act so surprised, Your Highness.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
What? Do what?
No. Try not. Do. Or do not.
Because I don't want no scrubs.
Let the dogs out, you know, like, who let the dogs out? Who?
Who brought this guy along?
I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chump some of this shit.
One more thing. Do me a favor. Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Mankind, that word should have new meaning for all of us today.
You're gonna need a bigger boat. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
I'll take care, all right? None but love for you. None but love for you.
Have any clue what's about to happen to him?
Oh, not a chance in hell. Good night.
Blow up! Peace! Smile, you son of a... You did it. You crazy son of a bitch, you did it.
Toodaloo, motherfucker. Hey.
It's not funny anymore.
Chelsea references. Still nothing. I swear to you.
But as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.